What's up, y'all? Jonathan Inspires, Motivated to Win 305 Radio, coming at y'all with a review. Now, this week, Birdman, he did an interview with Nick Cannon on Nick Cannon's show, Cannon Class. And Nick Cannon interviews Birdman. And to get to the meat and potatoes, Birdman says make some comments of our legend Master P. So we're gonna get into it. Let's go.
That Universal had did a deal for $30 million and allowed them to own their own masters in an 85-15 split to Cash Money, the greatest hip hop record deal ever. Like, how the hell did you pull that off?
When I look back and I play it back, I've been doing this shit with Universal 25 summers, right? And every nigga left me was never successful without me.
I personally heard, because, I was out on the West Coast. We heard No Limit and P and them was getting to it, like, body and all of that. And at the time, knowing when he was getting off, what was Cash Money doing?
Honestly, I never heard of that dude.
Really?
I kind of knew him because he played basketball, and that's AAU, because sometimes our project was Shakespeare, it was Rosenwald, so sometimes that shit play together.
Right.
And a nigga really could ball. I never knew him of no streets.
Like, not in the streets.
Nah, so.
And I would definitely say, man, you got a PhD in this gangster shit. Class is in session, and this is a legendary class, a master class, to be honest, because it is an honor, privilege, and pleasure.
All right, so Birdman is on this show, and he's talking about how Master P, Percy Miller, No Limit Records, he wasn't in the streets in New Orleans back in the day. Which we know that's where he got his money from to fund No Limit Records. The thing about Master P and Birdman is that they are two entrepreneurs. They are two moguls. I was a No Limit fan. I am a No Limit fan, I really didn't rock with Cash Money. Even though I like some of Lil Wayne's music, but even though I didn't rock with Cash Money like that, I still respect their hustle. I still respect their project. Like, you know what I'm saying? Their entity in their contribution to music. And Birdman doing this interview that Nick Cannon hosted, first of all, I had to say that Nick Cannon fueled the fire for some type of beef between P and Birdman. And it's dropped a day before Master P's birthday. Happy birthday, P. Salute. One thing about No Limit Records is No Limit Records came to us in a time where we were in a drought musically. I heard the Ice Cream Man and Master P the summer of All Eyes on Me, 96. I heard P, kind of late to some. Some heard him a lot later than that. But riding around the streets of Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all the cars, all the Jeeps, they were banging No Limit Records. They was banging I'm Bout It. They was banging Ice Cream Man. They was banging the Shocker, Silk the Shocker. And really, that was the soundtrack to the environment that was going on at the time, depending on where you was at. And then after that, when Pac and Biggie died, Unfortunately, they passed away. Um, P blew up. No Limit Records became a multi-million-dollar company. And the contribution that P and No Limit gave us was some quality music. You had, with Biggie died, you had Puffy and Bad Boy Records. They were putting out all this music. And to be honest with you, they were all over the radio. That's all you heard was Puffy, Lil C's, Lil Kim, Mary J. Blige. These songs, these same 4 songs over and over again. And to be honest with you, this is, in my opinion, when the radio stations started to get corrupt. When the radio stations stopped playing music that the listener wanted to hear and started playing music that was sponsored. They started playing music that only the big execs were pushing. And so a lot of us in this time, 96, 97, stopped listening to radio, to be honest with you. I'm a big promoter of radio, and I have a radio show. And I take radio very... radio is really important, I take it very seriously, radio. Because it is a place where you can hear new music before AI and the algorithms. It is a place where the listener can have a voice. But around this 96, 97, Puffy, Bad Boy, in particular, started flooding the radio stations. So what combated that was, to me, P and No Limit Records. They were putting out albums, man, like every week. Maybe three albums a month. And you was getting some quality music. And Master P coming from... So, P got his game from Richmond, California. By the way, it's St. Charles. By the way, E40's cousin, St. Charles. Or is his uncle, St. Charles. That showed him the way of the record business. P was from down south, but he started his record company. He started his record store in the Bay. With upcoming artists and growing artists like JT the Bigger Figure, producers K. Lou, producers like EA Ski. They were producing Master P, Silk the Shocker, and C Murder's music. And one thing about this label, No Limit Records, was, okay, so it was a record label that came out of the Bay. And a lot of times, at this time, when it came to West Coast music, a lot of the only music that was being recognized, to be honest with you, was Southern California rap music on a global scale. And then also, you had New York rap. And it was a big divide. Outkast just came out not too long ago. You had the Midwest rappers coming out like Bone Thugs and Harmony, Twister, Do or Die. They were making the sound. Scarface was big in the South as well. UGK was just coming up. But UGK came up between excuse me, between No Limit Records and Rap A Lot. They were making a name for themselves. But this sound, this voice that Master P started was giving the Midwest a voice, because, to be honest with you, a lot of people in the Midwest was rocking with P real hard. A lot of people in the Bay was rocking with P real hard, even though he had some issues with Yuck Mouth and Loonies over the Ice Cream Man song. We know that. But he had a lot of following in the Bay, in the Midwest, in the South, in the West. Master P dropped projects, Down South Hustlers, excuse me, projects like West Coast Bad Boys, which highlighted Bay Area artists and Los Angeles artists and Midwest artists. So P came out with Down South Hustlers, West Coast Bad Boys 1 and 2. Master P's earlier music was produced by K. Lou and EA Ski. And then eventually, not eventually, but very shortly after, KLC Beats by the Pound started producing No Limits music. And P represented Richmond, California, and New Orleans, because he got his game from the Bay, and he represent where he was from in New Orleans. And one of the biggest songs he came out with was I'm Bout It. I'm Bout It, Bout It was probably one of the biggest movement songs for the South at the time, following the movie I'm Bout It, which was a bootleg phenomenon. Most of y'all had the I'm Bout It movie on bootleg. I had the actual, but most of y'all had it on bootleg. And then when the bootleg came out, the movie came out, but when y'all bootlegged it, people from all over the East Coast, the West Coast, down South, Midwest, all over the world, all over the country, all over the world, people identified with P, Master P, Percy Miller, their movement, and the fact that there's ghettos all over the world. And some of the things that were in the movie I'm Bout It, we all can relate to in one way or another. Master P was and is a mogul, a trendsetter, an innovator. He was one of the people that really blended the South and West Coast music together. He spoke up against the industry when the industry was all going one way. A lot of y'all music cats was trying to do the same shit. Y'all wanted to be like the New York Biggie, or y'all wanted to be like the West Coast Snoop. That was it. I mean, there was a lot of independency coming up among the ranks with Outkast, Crucial Conflict, Bone, but P was the first label to do it, black-owned label at that. So on this interview, Birdman says that P blackballed him to be signed with Priority Records. Coincidentally, that's when Birdman got his deal with Universal, which is supposed to be the biggest deal of all times, the most astronomical deal of all times. But P was the first, and His deal, not as good as Birdman, but very close. And he was the first. Best believe Birdman was taking notes from what P was doing, hustling from New Orleans, from the Bay, getting these groups together, coming out with albums 3 and 4 times a month. Best believe Birdman was taking notes in this situation. Now, mind you, this is 30 years later, and Birdman, I'm sure, has a lot more money than P, just based off of Drake and Lil Wayne. P didn't have a Drake or Lil Wayne or Nicki Minaj per se. But he has some of the greatest groups and greatest albums and greatest hood anthems of all time. Not to mention, he gave Nipsey Hussle the game. You know what I mean? He gave Gucci Mane the game. He gave a lot of artists, Pharrell, he gave Pharrell the game. He gave a lot of people game on how to be independent and get it on your own. And what happens a lot of times is, to be real, that we rather tear each other down than support one another. We rather tear each other down than not say nothing at all. Respect what you don't understand. Respect what you're not a part of. And you can respect it by just being silent. Now, Birdman saying that P blocked him in the industry, that's his truth. That's his truth, so to speak. But I have to say that Nick Cannon, as an interviewer, was not giving a proper interview. He was co-signing the man through the whole interview. Like, yeah, oh man, he did that. Oh yeah, like agreeing with him. But when it comes to an interview, you should when it comes to an interview, you should ask the appropriate questions and let that person talk. And be engaged, but don't co-sign like you was there. Don't agree with him along the way like you know what he's saying is true. Because it's his truth, but Nick Cannon, respectfully, you weren't there. Birdman in the interview called Russell Simmons an N-word. And you called him an N-word too. Like, if you want to interview, you might want to take lessons on how to interview. Now, I know Nick Cannon has interviewed way more people than I have, even though I am a good interviewer. Still learning, but I wouldn't agree with whoever I'm interviewing with all the way because it's not about me as the interviewer. I'm trying to get your message out. I'm trying to bring the things out to paint a picture of what you represent as a person, you know? But having a level of neutrality, a neutral perspective throughout the whole thing. Because if not, that's how New York radio was back in the day, you know? They didn't have a neutral perspective. You know what I mean? They just block stuff. Yes and no when it comes to, like, what's his name? Funk Flex. When it comes to Funk Flex and Funk Flex in particular. Shouts out to DJ Clue. Shouts out to Red Alert. Shouts out to DJ Premier. You know, people that just, you know, drop music and mess with everybody, depending on where, no matter where they was from. But that's my thoughts, you know. I love Cash Money's contribution to music. My favorite Cash Money album would probably be the Carter 2, to be honest with you. But I'm a No Limit fan, you know, from the Ice Cream Man probably being my favorite album, West Coast Bad Boys 1 and 2 from P, True to the Game album by TRU, and then Ghetto Dope, 99 Ways to Die. A lot of albums from P, but I would probably say those is my top. Silk the Shocker, Mr. Servon, Life Insurance. Come on now. I'm Bout It soundtrack. I got the Hookup soundtrack. Come on now. Don't get me started. But P a tourist like me, man. He a hustler. He inspired me throughout the years, you know, to go get it out the muscle, go against the grain, be yourself, you know. That's the things that P taught me. And, you know, much love, much respect to Birdman, but this interview that him and Nick Cannon had was quite disappointing in my view. No Limit for life, you know what I'm saying? But I got love for Cash Money. This is Jonathan Aspires, Motivated to Win 305, coming at y'all with another banger. Tap in, I'm going to do another music review coming soon. I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.